right, guys. Recap number 3 this week or 4. Today was a good day. Today was a good day, I would say. What ended up happening? Had a really bad ad on Nvidia for my first entry, I guess my entry point, and then had to add into my risk, and then add into a lower high, which I created a full position. It was about 3,000 or like 2,500, something like that. I got a 30% one on it, which is about like 14, 1,500. A lot of you guys saw that, but then I ended up, what did I end up doing? Oh, I let my runners go beyond, or kind of like obviously go past my thesis. So those stopped me out, and I ended up losing $200 on that. So I think I walked away with like 1,200 or 1,000, and then I took a really bad Tesla trade to end the day, and I can go over that too. But I mean, really, Nvidia was the main trade today. I took an SPX as well for 60%. I will show that. But really, right, you guys can even see my chart here. Target for the trade initially was this 470 mark. There was that potential for this to push even higher, up to this level up here, right, which is, I don't know, 476 or something like that. Let me turn this on because it always turns off. I don't know why. Open, high, low, close. This was what I thought would get towards, like if there was an outlier breakout, but really, right, this is what we got to learn as, it's something I'll teach you guys, external liquidity, external range, right? And it ended up pushing out over this, and you guys can see it pushed out pretty deep by about 6 points, but all it ended up being was a 6 point wick. Right, this candle looks like it trapped a lot of buyers here for the breakout, and now it's probably going to trade back into the internal range, right? So we're anything under this, this lower high, swing high, whatever you guys want to call this, it's probably going to trade back into here and fill out the structure. Specifically, I'm thinking this level here at like that 462, 460 mark, with potential to trade, in my opinion, back down to like 436.97. I think this level needs to get retested. This gap may come into play eventually, but it's going to trade back into the internal range, right, which is from here. Right, this is internal or external range low, and this is an external range high, and then you guys are gonna have to forgive me. This entire box, that's all internal range, right? So this is all internal range. Hopefully that's not confusing, but that's essentially how charts trade. Now, let's get rid of some stuff and we'll go over the trade itself, why I took a bad entry, what ended up happening, and why I didn't really panic on this, okay? All right, so now that we're on a 5-minute time frame, remember what I was looking for was that rejection of that 476.18 since we already hit target, which was that 470 mark. So we opened above it, obviously. So I was looking for it to reject here, right? And then I was looking for a lower high or any kind of weakness to short and then try to get this back down to like pre-market low, which is 466. I don't know what this 466 is. Oh, I think that was pre-market low. Okay, yeah, like 466 and some change. I was actually looking for 465. Yeah, there we go, like 465.98. But yeah, this is what ended up happening. Let's go ahead and just get rid of this 471. We'll just pretend it doesn't exist. But if you guys take the high to low, this is what I was looking at initially for my ad. You go here, right? You guys should be able to see the 618 sitting up here, just shy of our level. Let's make this a little bit easier to see for you guys. 6, and we'll make this color like a little bit of a blue color. We'll make this blue, and then we'll make the one blue. Cool. Here we go. That should be easier to see. Let's get rid of all the extensions on here. I don't really care about the extensions. Okay. So looks pretty good, right? We had, yeah, there we go. So we were looking for this to basically push down. What am I doing that right? Yeah, what am I talking about? I don't know why I got so confused from that. So it was up here, ended up pushing down. We were looking for this to retrace back up here to the 618. And really, I took my first ad here on this candle right around, what time is this? 7:45. And I knew I was in trouble right away. Okay, so if we just zoom into the chart really quickly, um, let's go like this. You can see right off the bat, right, we ended up having our initial low right in this range here. And what ended up happening was basically, it was probably a little bit lower. It was like right around here that I was looking at this. You guys should be able to see the consistent lows here on the 1-minute bar. And then it sold off, pushed back up, consolidated with this now being a resistance, these lows. and then it broke out, and then it gave a 2-bar pullback, and it looked like a flag, right? We saw this long wick here, so I was like, oh man, this looks like a 1-minute flag, because I had taken the ads a little bit early. I ended up jumping into the trade right around here, which we all know was not the best entry. It felt like a decent entry at the time, but as soon as I saw this pull down and kind of give that flag, I knew that it was going to push out, so I saved some of my ads. And then what ended up happening was it pushed up towards our risk, which was the high day. And I didn't really panic at this because I'm still going to give this a 5-minute candle close, knowing I have the ability to, add into the trade. It's not an average down per se because the thesis hasn't been invalidated. But I was going to look to either add here or wait for a lower high confirmation. All right. Now, if we jump back into a 5-minute chart, you guys will see it worked out okay. Like I said, I could have had a way better entry. I probably should have gone a lot heavier, probably on the third bar here at this high day mark. But what ended up happening now, if we can just take this off, now you guys understand why, I shorted there. This ended up selling down to like the midpoint, right, the equilibrium. Now, if we simply pull another fib, so bear with me, from high or low to high now. Okay, let's clear this out. We'll do the same exact thing. Maybe I should just make this my default on here. Go blue. Get rid of that. This needs to be blue. This bad boy blue. We'll get rid of this, and we'll save as default. We'll go there. Cool. All right, so same thing. Now pull down, where do you think this bounced off of, right? It was that initial low that we were talking about before, where we had the 1-minute bars, we had the push-up, rejection, and then it broke out, gave that, 2-minute, I think it was like a 2-bar 1-minute candle, so technically 3 minutes of just like a flag pullback. That broke it out. So it pulled back, retested that, also retested the 618, and it held here. Now, I was looking for very, very similar to a lot of the trades that we've done this week. It's okay if the bid catches here. I was expecting a higher low, but how does that bid react off that higher low? Is it low volume? And it's really important to look at that volume and also watch your candles. Now, we ended up getting the catch, obviously, with these wicks here, clear buyers at the 618, and it pushed up, and volume was not impressive. That was a very weak bid and a very weak attempt, especially to get back towards these highs up here. That's the goal of that higher low, is to get back to this and create a higher high. And I actually added on once this candle ended up closing. And I remember it got pretty, like this wick started to push down pretty heavily, and that's when I was like, and I think there was like 30 seconds till it closed. So I ended up jumping in somewhere up here, and that was my ad. Like I said, I should have added right up here, but I did not. I just wanted to get a confirmation that this was top. NVIDIA can be a little tricky like that. So I added here, and then obviously it consolidated a little bit at this weekly level one more time, that 476 level, and then it sold down. Now, like I said, it wasn't the most impressive win here. I could have had a couple spots where I added differently, and this easily would have been a 50-60% win, especially up here. But since I added at this level, right, this move down to wherever that low was, right, if we just kind of pull it down, oh God, it's not giving me the amount. There we go. So that was a $3 move. And I think we went in the money with those, or like just at the money with I think we went like 470 puts, if I'm not wrong. Maybe it was 465s, I don't remember. But they did pretty good. They went like 30%. And this ended up being a $1,200 trade, like I said earlier. And then this ended up obviously pushing back out. We ended up hitting high a day and kind of broke through and then flagged. And that triggered out the last of my contracts for a $200 loss on those. So I went from like 1,400 or 1,200 down to 1,000, and I was okay with it. But really, the reason that this was frustrating because I should have just stalked this to get back in, right? I should have waited for another high and then sat on like higher time frames, maybe like a 30-minute or something like that, to be able to see if there was going to be a sweep, because I knew that this level here, right, was a very key weekly and daily lower high. It's your external range as well, so I should have just waited to see if there was some kind of liquidity sweep here and just kept it up on my charts. Unfortunately, I didn't do that, but we kind of called exactly where it would go. It doesn't really count, obviously, because we didn't trade it. But yeah, this was perfect, right? It ended up pushing out, swept those highs, pulled back down, and now we're starting to make lower highs one more time, right? Lower high here, and then obviously that news kicked in and it sold down. There was probably a retest entry as it made its way back up and broke back under this 476.18 level. But at that point, guys already know I was short SPY. Those went 55 and 50% respectively. And then, yeah, this just started to melt down to the low. I'm still expecting this to get down here and trade to the lower 465s, potentially this weekly support now at 463, right? We know this was Tuesday's high, and I think that's probably where it's going to go, is the hourly level here from Wednesday. So I'm looking for this to trade down there. But yeah, just frustrating in the sense that I should have added a little bit better. But these trades happen. Remember, it's important to, if you get stuck in these situations, to just follow your plan. Don't panic as soon as it goes wrong. Just remember, you got to know where your risk is. And it's okay to add as it makes its way to the risk, or if it's at the risk, just make sure you kind of know when you're going to stop out. Mine was that 5-minute candle close over, or was it the initial high? And it did work in my favor just because I had very, very good ads here. And I didn't panic. I wasn't averaging down the whole way. And I still was going to respect my stop with, and it wasn't even that bad. I think I only went down like 25, 20%. And then the ads obviously brought me to like -8. And then it sold off a little bit. And then this little level down here, of course, is what brought me to like 30, 35% win. But that was it. Oh, it was over here. My bad. This little move down is what brought me 30% from these highs. So let's take a look at the SPX win that we had. This should be a pretty decent one. I mean, right after this trade, though, you guys know what happened. The bond auction kicked in and the market sold off drastically. And I wasn't in a rush to chase that, just because we have the swings on it. That's the beauty of it. So let's take a look at that. All right, guys, I promise this is an untouched chart. I literally just opened this up. And it was really simple. I do take the blame, at least for my own account, for not adding here. You guys saw, I mean, really, pre-market, it opened up and it pushed right to our freaking level, man. Like, it literally, yeah, it opened right there, 438.43. And it literally said it was going to do that. The high of this candle was 438.47. So I was 4 cents off from timing the top. I don't know why I just didn't add a ton here. I probably should have gotten to at least 10 contracts, and I did not. I guess it's okay. I mean, I could have probably added on the lower high here as well. But you guys can see just how respected this chart was, right? I mean, remember I talked about Friday's high. This is Monday's high. This was Tuesday's hourly pivot. It didn't really respect it here. It kind of knifed through, but then it broke back above and based on this level pretty cleanly at the 436 mark. And then it was no different today, right? If we go take a look, this is the 30-minute. It pushed down, sold down, sold down. You guys can see literally right where it bounced, right off this 436 zone that we've been talking about for literally all week. It did bounce, give that lower high here. I'm sure if we just pull the fibs here as well, like I'm almost like positive this will be a 618. Oh no, maybe not. That was a little harder to time, but still, nonetheless, if you're able to read structure on chart, this was an easily identifiable lower high. I didn't really trade it on the 30, so we can look at like some other time frames, because I do remember that we ended up taking calls here. We ended up getting, oh yeah, this is where I actually ended up taking the SPX trade. So this was essentially your break of structure, right? So we ended up having this sell off, pushed under, and then we ended up pushing back up, right? And we got our break of structure through these, right? This candle pushing out through this little level here, and then it broke out. And I didn't want to chase this necessarily because it felt a little chasey. Dude, we literally caught this right before the flush. So, I remember I told everybody I should probably bring over the Discord for this one. I did tell everybody that I got out with 60% wins. I was like, hey, there's just no point of really risking this. But if we go to a 5-minute chart as well, I know a couple people ended up taking the short once I ended up closing out of the long. But it was right around here, right? Because I felt like this was a little bit too high for my own risk tolerance, right? Like kind of this little flag here. Oh, that looks bad. It's not letting me click, guys. But this little flag here, it just didn't feel right. I felt like I was buying a little bit too high. And of course, it didn't work out, right? So this ended up pushing back down, sold down into this little range here where I said the break of structure was. And really, I mean, I ended up taking the calls as it made its way down here. And then we got, what, like a $1.50 pop. And I was looking for it to potentially push back over this high here. And it didn't happen, right? I let everybody know, once I hit that 60% mark, I'm pretty much out of everything except for runners. Runners stop break even. just in case it ended up having a push out towards high a day. Just didn't happen, right? And ended up selling off pretty drastically. Um, and yeah, I mean, I thought there was a chance it would retrace into this imbalance candle here because this is a true fair value gap. It would have been 437.46. Of course, it sold off, retested this 436 level. That's been massive for the past feels like month, but it's only been about a week, I think. And then it continued to sell off. And now, once we ended up getting this lower high, just a failure to push any higher, right? Especially out over this opening kind of range, even the fair value gap, right? I mean, the sell-off was pretty drastic, and this is where our swings really benefited. And if you guys have been in these with me, I mean, I think I entered here, right? I think I entered probably. Oh boy, I think I entered on this high right here. Or I might have entered up somewhere here, but either way, you guys can see the levels, man. I was looking for it maybe to push out to the 439.94 level, 440, where I would have taken one more ad. But, I mean, just a perfect spot. We were expecting this level, and I mentioned this multiple times. Multiple times. These stops were going to get rated, right? And there's a lot of stops that were sitting above these daily highs. It was going to probably push through and just fill the gap, stop out these players, and then sell down. I mean, that's literally what we got. I called this on Twitter for a lot of people. This was obviously a Discord trade. Only thing that I said is I just don't know why I didn't add more contracts. It was weird. I don't know why I did that. But now, from here, after that SPX trade for the 60, I took I had two different trades. I had one expiration for the 717 or 1117, then I had 1124s. Both of those respectively went 55 and 50%, and I'm still writing those, right? So, I mean, I still think that this chart is going to structurize and restructure back down towards this low here. So I'll be looking for 429.92 slash 430, and then maybe like another push for a weekly higher low. I would expect maybe it just kind of trades into the top of this range at 433, and then another sell-off right down to 423.50, something in that range. Then I think we can really start a Santo rally, if you will. But I mean, this was a daily slash weekly trade. It wasn't anything crazy. Intraday, I mean, really, if you're looking for an opportunity on this, it was pretty difficult in my opinion to get in. I mean, really, you would have had to have been you getting in like midday. I know a couple people did this, but like right off the open to short as soon as it's under this level, right? And then maybe this lower high here would have been a good entry. But besides that, I mean, I felt like any other move might have been a little bit chasey. So, I mean, that's how bearish price action is, though. It moves very quickly. Your flags aren't going to be anything more than 2 bars at a time, so probably 10 minutes total if you're using 5-minute candles. But this was probably your best chance, right? If you got down to like a 5-minute chart, the simple, retracement back up into this 436 spot, the fact that it didn't even push any higher was probably a solid entry here. And then, risk the top of the fair value gap or maybe just a break over, right? So if you would have gone here, that's probably where I would have looked to either add and then risk this level up here, or you could have risked here. But I didn't have to do that, so that was pretty nice. But yeah, this was not the easiest chart, so I definitely understand, especially knowing how Powell can sway the market, and yeah, things can get a little bit sticky there. But yeah, that was that trade, and then Tesla. We might as well try to knock this out really quickly. This was more of like a feel out trade. You guys know I was looking for 206, right? I mean, we were looking for 206.13 to catch. And then what ended up happening before the auction itself occurred, as I saw somewhat of a higher low developing, which was right around, oh here, yeah, so it was like right around here. We saw this, this move up initially, right? We started to get a push out, almost an H pattern, and then it sold down pretty aggressively, and then it recovered it, pushed right back to this lower high, sold down again on decreasing volume. I did take call entries here, and then it started to push out, and then obviously it sold back down, and as it was knifing down here, I ended up just taking the loss for I think like 24%, and this is where I ended up, I wasn't super pissed, but you guys know, I mean, I was up 1,400 or 1,200. The runners on NVIDIA had a $200 loss on those, so that pulled me to 1,000. And then this Tesla trade was like 22-25%. As this was pushing down, I ended up closing. I think my entry was 4.7. They came down to like 3.9 or something like that. I just didn't want to deal with it. and risk the low again, especially considering that I still think this comes down to 206 flat, 206.13, and I just didn't want to risk that drawdown. So I closed these out, took a 300 or like 270, $300 loss. So I finished the day at like 700 bucks. So I mean, I did lose some money, but I didn't. Obviously, I made money too. So that's I have to take it for what it is. I'm happy with that. But I mean, it's kind of upsetting because you guys can see it didn't ever really break the low. So if I just stuck to like kind of having risk, a defined risk, rather than an impulsive trade here, I wouldn't have gotten stopped out. I mean, I think these came right back to entry if you look at it. You know, entry was like right around here at the bottom of this candle, pushed up, sold down, pushed back up, probably got close to entry, pushed back down. This might have swept me out, right? But it did recover all the way back up, and I'm sure these would have been green at a certain point. But yeah, that was the loss that I had. I don't think I took anything else, guys. That was pretty much it. It was yeah, I think it was just Nvidia and then SPX and then Tesla was the loss. But trying to look at if there was anything else that I did. Forgive me if I forgot anything. I don't think I did. No, swings. No, that was it. Yeah. Okay, that was it. So recounting. So Nvidia was my intraday trade. I could have taken that twice, but I didn't. That was 33%, 30%, something in that realm. And then I had SPY, right? I had the swings that were long term, 55 and 50%. And then I had SPX for 60, and then I had Tesla the loss. So technically 4 and 1, or yeah, 4 and 1. And that was pretty much it. Nothing super crazy. I am excited for tomorrow. I'll go ahead and record a scan right after this as well. Fridays, though, you guys should know. I mean, the priority is those weekly candles / daily candles. Just getting a read on the market, especially after a sell-off like that. Just being able to evaluate the weekly volume, make sure everything looks in line, and starting to set up either swings, getting your bias, your sentiment for the following week, and then really just start trying to navigate the market as best you can with what you deem is a plus setup or a good setup for yourself, whatever your edge is. So really excited for tomorrow because I do think that we start to see some really good expansion and pullbacks into some key levels where we can maybe go long. There's a lot that's going to be happening. So that's it for the scan. Hope you guys enjoyed. This was a first one too where I actually, I feel like that was a full-size position on Tesla where I was able to obviously talk about the loss. And those things happen. I mean, I think that was just an impulsive trade. Things I got to avoid still, especially when you're up, man. I feel like when you're up 12, 1400 bucks, you definitely feel like you have some wiggle room. I think that's the best time to get out, right? Is just take the 1400 bucks, walk out, and don't look back. So I feel like it was a good stab, but looking back on it, just kind of regret it a little bit. But that is all. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys tomorrow.